All right, let's take you back to that intimate ceremony, friends of Archbishop Desmond Tutu, remembering him. And this is hosted by the Archbishop Desmond Tutu IP Trust and the Desmond and Leah Tutu Legacy Foundation. And of course, there on the podium, former First Lady Graca Machel. Let's see what she has to say.
Truth in everything which has been said. And then when I came here, I knew that I would have to speak for 2 minutes, but amongst many others. Now the Master of Ceremony says the highlight. I want really to ask you, let's cool down. There's no highlight here. It cannot be a highlight. It's simply I'm being punished because I came late. And because of that, then I'm being asked to be the last. Agree? Many of you will think that my association with Arch is because I happen to be a best friend to his best friend. But I'll take you back. In 1993, July, the Secretary General of UN appointed me to what he considered that I should help the United Nations to develop an agenda for children impacted by armed conflict. I thought he was mistaken at the beginning. I said, I don't think you are talking to the right person. He said, no, I know who I'm talking to. Anyway, that was July, and it took me months really to think deeply and to say, am I going to accept this responsibility? While I know from the onset that I won't be able because it's too high and too deep, too heavy for me. So I took time to think, how then I respond to this? I decided to establish a group of what I call the eminent persons, selected from all corners of the globe, once the response had to be global. And of course in Africa, you understand now. I couldn't look at anyone else than Arch. The second in Africa was my mentor as well, Julius Nyerere. So I wrote to Arch, and I said I wanted to be him to guide what we should develop together as how the world should treat children who are affected by armed conflict. And he said to me, say it again. And I repeated this. To be short, he accepted to join, and he said, but why did you, the first question, why did you decide to call me to this group? I said, Arch, I'm an African child who really is conscious that the task which I have been given, I can't carry it on my own. So I'm asking the light, the guide, an African guide, to give me the strength first, and then the counseling of how do we deal with these issues so that we can offer something meaningful to the world. And he said, let's pray. As usual, let's pray. And we prayed. He came then to New York for the first meeting I was holding with this. There were 8 of them, eminent persons. And I outlined what I thought they should give me with my team as guidance for us to undertake this huge task. I won't be detailed here, but I just want to say the fundamentals of the principles which we had to put down to guide us for that agenda to be what until today, I'm sorry not to be modest here, but it's considered to be groundbreaking guide for the UN to deal with children in conflict. We due with my team to his guidance. So when I say he is my spiritual leader, some people might not know exactly what I mean and where it comes from. Those days I was not associated to Madiba. Madiba was my leader, very far from me. But I had to look into his eyes, to the eyes of Arch, and say, give me the guidance. And ever since, he held me by hand. Whenever I would have really something which troubled me seriously, I would look up to him, wherever he would be. During that period of that study, I visited Sierra Leone and I visited Rwanda, Kigali. And it was the first time in my life to be confronted with the situation where children are not the victims of conflict, but they are perpetrators of atrocities. I saw this in Rwanda. I spoke to children. There were 600 of them in that jail, which until today it's haunting me. And then when I visit Sierra Leone, I go to a camp where they had a few young people who were also, perpetrators. One of them, I look into his eyes and say, why are you here? And he says, I killed people. I said, how many? Oh, I can't count. There's so many. I said, but you know you killed it. Oh, yes, I killed people. I know there are many. But I had just developed a joy in killing people. I was so disturbed. And I came back. I called Archie and said, I don't know what to do with this. I can't deal with it. And he asked me to explain what I had witnessed. And he says, over the phone, let's pray. And he prayed. At the end he said, you know, Graca, there's always goodness in every single human being. And that goodness, sometimes it can be overshadowed by evil, but it's still there. So, make sure that you find ways and means of bringing back the goodness in those children, because being as young as they are, definitely they will become good women and good men. So it's up to you to find those means. I said, Arch, I can't. I said, you have to do what you have to do. It took me time with my team to work out and say, what do we do to rehabilitate and reintegrate children amongst some of them who really we knew that they killed people, but to bring them to become children again, or if you like, adolescents again, but to be dignified people and good people. Arch was always consistent in telling us, Mary is here, that there's always goodness in every single human being. what you have to do, that's what he told me, is to bring up that goodness, to be dominant. And he told us this, the elders, when we were celebrating, no, it was before we celebrated Madiba, but he said, you know, our challenge is that we don't bring enough the good in people, and we allow the evil to always occupy our minds and sometimes even to guide our minds. So he was worried that we should broaden the goodness in people, and he said also we should be able to bring the goodness to be the one which is more dominant than the evil. Evil, it's his words, it's not mine. Why I'm sharing this with you? I said in my tribute to him that Arch is the last of that generation. And when we celebrate his life, we are also celebrating all the other leaders which South Africa, particularly South Africa, had been able to produce. This is a country where you really found outstanding leadership, which hardly is found concentrated in one single country. And it's the generation which bequeathed us freedom, right? Now, for me, ever since when he left, the reflection is, what now? Personally, where do I turn? Who do I turn to? I suppose many of us have been asking that question as well, in different ways. But we knew that this generation would have to go, because nature says, you live and you die. So they are gone. The question we have now is, there's no apartheid institutionalized as they had to fight against. But we do have our own walls which are separating us. In this country, on the continent, in the world, there are walls which are separating us as human beings. And we get used to live with them and to be able to go about our lives. We know, we talk, but we don't feel the responsibility of being I and you to remove those walls. So for me, I'm saying we mourn. I'm mourning. We celebrate. We all are celebrating. But I want to add something. Let's take inspiration. So let's talk of mourning, celebrating, and taking inspiration. Because with that goodness, he taught me, and I'm sharing with you, which exists in each one of us here. If we really bring up that goodness in thousands and millions, then possibly we are not going to have that outstanding leadership we had in the past. But we will have the capacity to remove the walls I'm talking about. When I came in, Mandla was speaking here, and he was saying, those who go with no food. And I could name many of them. Those walls. I just want to make one appeal. Let's be intentional. Today is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We are going to lay Arch to rest. Before he goes down to that Mother Earth, which is going to embrace him. Each one of us, intentionally, look inside, reflect, and say, what can I do individually to become a better gift to the world, as Arch was? In my own capacity. None of us is going to be like Arch or like anyone else. But individually, as you are, you have inside you that goodness. You have inside that power. Make a pledge. Make a pledge intentionally and write it down. Write it down to say, in honor of the legacy of Desmond Tutu, which I admire so much, I celebrate. I have the privilege of being touched by him directly as a person. This is what I'm going to do better. As from the day he goes down, and then each one of us rises with that pledge. So that 10 days after, read it again. To say, what did I pledge? Because we are still full of these emotions, right? What did I pledge? How am I going to transform this in power and energy for me to become a better human being? And to be a human being who is going to be because the other is. The Ubuntu we're talking about. Choose your own way of doing it. But please, we must make sure that this doesn't become a ritual in which during 1 week we say it, we repeat, and then the next week, Patricia was saying, we go about our lives. Let's be intentional. Let's take time really to reflect and say, in my own life, in my professional life, and even in the way I relate to other human beings, in the way I want to embrace other human beings, in the way I want to contribute to bring down the walls of hunger, the walls of crime, the walls of what we say usually inequality. Inequality has a face. It's not abstract. It has a face. How do I do to bring the walls of inequality and make sure that in this country every single human being will have a sense of belonging, a sense of honor? Yes, we can make it. And that is perhaps the second chance which that generation has given us. The first one, it was freedom. The second one is to leave us and say, now the country belongs to you. There's not those big trees which were covering us. There is no these great lights. My child here was singing this, I'm light. Each one of us is a light. Now is the time to say, I am the light. And now the responsibility is mine too. I'm not going to wait for the government to do it, the church to do it. The church is me. Because I have the light inside me. I can, and we can. I don't think if it's all of us we make that pledge, and really we make it our daily life to improve the lives of those who are as citizens of us, like us. The way we do it, we change, then all this celebration will make sense. It will make sense. And legacy, it will make sense. But if we talk, we repeat, and then come Sunday, come Monday, come 10 days, a month, a year later, we continue to do exactly our lives as we do it, then forget it. We are joking. We are not celebrating anything. I'm here because I'm a woman who is have been really privileged to be very close to many of those who are gone now. And I said it before. I feel like part of me has been chopped one by one as they go. I mourn them. Now, I don't have anyone to mourn. I'm not going to mourn them anyway. But now I have to ask myself, regardless of what I've been doing, what am I going to do better now so that I can claim the privilege of having learned from them, of having been part of their life and my life being part of them. We all here, we have a bit of Desmond Tutu in our lives. He touched us in different ways, so choose your own way. But for goodness sake, don't close this week without making a personal challenge to yourself and a pledge in which in 1 week, in 1 month, 1 year, whatever are the years you're going to live from now on, to say, this is what I have pledged and this is how I have improved myself to be a better person, to say, yes, I had the privilege of being touched by Desmond Tutu, and I sat in this foundation. There are many who are watching from wherever they are, and we all, in solidarity, we said, yes, we are going to take up the baton. The baton is very concrete. It's not words. And this is what we are going to see. I want us then to be able, in 1 year's time, to be able to look into the eyes of Arch and look into the eyes of our own, to say, this is how we honor you, and this is why we take inspiration from your life. I thank you. I thank you, because yes, we could all of us live here. I mean, very happy. I'm the last, but my last privilege is that some of you, in a year time, I will ask you about the pledge we have made today, personally. Thank you very much.